Welcome to I Said What I Said, a sports podcast giving you opinions not heard anywhere else. I'm your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co host, Tyson Gentry. Tyson, we're back with another college football episode. And last week, kind of a boring week. This weekend is going to be an absolute banger. I cannot wait to get in, sit down, veg out on the couch, and just watch as much college football as I can because this one should be awesome. So we're going to preview a lot of the games that we have coming up. We're going to go through the new college football rankings that came out. We'll give our reaction to what's happening there. Does it matter? Probably not. But we need to react to it because it's the first one and it's fun. And of course, we'll break down one game from week 9. Not the best slate, but I think there are one game that we want to highlight in totality. So one thing too, Tice, before we jump into it, it's finally gotten cold over here in New York. Like I was absolutely freezing, and I know it's been snowing over there, so I can't complain too much.
Yeah, it's been. It's Montana, man. So we're just get kicked in the nuts from about the end of October through the middle of March, and then we're gonna have construction all the way through the middle of October.
Yeah, there's 2 seasons, right? That's what it is.
Yes, winter and road construction. But this is the first weekend in November, man. So everything that happened in the college football season before this doesn't really even matter. Isn't that wild? This is the way it works.
Yeah, always, especially when you have the college football playoff rankings. So we'll jump into that. I haven't really discussed it with Tyson, so I'm curious to hear his thoughts. But let's waste no more time. Let's just jump into week 9 recap because we have a lot to get to. Penn State survived a scare against Indiana. That was looking dicey for a while. Georgia just throttled Florida after they went down early, and then they turned on the Jets, didn't look back. Got a little scary for Ohio State against Wisconsin, but I don't think they were ever in true danger there. Washington, there still seems to be some issues with that offense as they won by 9 points against Stanford on the road. And how about Oklahoma? Biggest upset of the weekend. They lose on the road outright against Kansas in a game that had weather delays and things like that. And very interesting. And Oregon State lost on the road at Arizona. Like Arizona is actually a legit program so far. And then Duke, 0 points against Louisville. Just the complete domination of that game. And then other than that, I mean, USC survived. That was a fireworks show. They won 50-49. just a complete insanity. And your boys at James Madison, they just continue to roll, man. Number 25, 8-0. They keep getting it done. But Tyson, the one game we wanted to touch on was Oregon and Utah because Oregon went into Utah and smashed them.
Well, we do have to point out that we might be a Drake May podcast, and we can't hide from the fact that they lost again. So we got to throw that in there. It wasn't. I mean, when you score 49 points and don't turn the ball over, it's not necessarily on the offense, but that was an L that North Carolina took. But yeah, this Oregon Utah game, man, it was like a massacre. It was close to start. I think you could have maybe tricked yourself if you were just tuned in like halfway through the first quarter that Utah had a chance, but Oregon just they are so different than I'm used to seeing. Like Dan Lanning is so legit, it's not even funny. And this team is scary as hell. I think there's a real chance that we were kind of joking. I'll save it because we'll get into it in the college football playoff talk here. But this team is really good, man.
It's a tough place to play too in Utah. Like everybody knows, like not a lot of teams go in there and win. Game day was there. It was hyped up. It was people were ready for this one, trying to pull off an upset. And they just were outmatched. And Utah's been skating by. I think I would call them a few of their wins luck box, but they got it done under Kyle Whittingham. And this one, it was just you could see the difference in class, quarterback play, physicality, the athletes, because Utah still has a lot of guys banged up, and it just wasn't close.
I do. When's the last time like you were going into a weekend and being like, yeah, Oregon's more physical than these guys? Like
A
we've
long
done it
time.
for 8 weeks and it just
I know.
doesn't feel right.
No, it doesn't. I guess that's what happens when you hire somebody from the Kirby Smart tree, And Dan Lanning, they're going to be ready to hit the ground running when they get into the Big Ten because they're going to
Oh yeah.
they're going to have the bodies, they're going to have the athletes.
Are they the best equipped to jump conferences right now out of all the teams that are moving?
I think so, just based on how Lanning's recruited. I'm curious to see what Washington looks like without Penix there and how they've recruited and how that style of play transitions. Because I guess maybe Texas, but it's a different beast in the SEC. And I don't know about this Oklahoma team making that jump either.
Yeah, I mean, the Oklahoma team that showed up on Saturday, the Oklahoma team for 10 minutes after the first weather delay would be just fine. The one for the rest of the game is in big trouble.
Okay, that's week 9 recap. We got a ton, so we didn't hit on a lot of things that happened. That's because we want to get into the previews and this right here, college football playoff rankings reaction, because the first one came out on Tuesday, and we gave ours last week. We both had Michigan as our number 1 team, Georgia as our 2, then we both had Ohio State as our 3. That's not how the committee saw it, as they went Ohio State 1, Georgia 2, Michigan 3, Florida State 4, Washington 5, Oregon 6. So we'll focus on those 6 right now as it stands. Let's start here. What did you think about Ohio State taking home the number 1 ranking in the first edition of these rankings?
I don't have any problem with it. I know that you do. So I kind of want to clear the runway here. But the only thing that's confusing is I don't really know how you've seen Michigan just kind of blow the doors off everybody. My thinking is maybe this is like a slap on the wrist for, hey, we're acknowledging some of these things you guys got going on. You can't be number 1 right now. But maybe that's just the committee saying they think Penn State's really good too.
Potentially. And the reason why I just had an issue with Ohio State is because I think they should have lost against Notre Dame. I don't think that's any question. Like, a kid dropped the football. We're not talking about Ohio State. And yeah, their defense was good against Penn State. Was anybody convinced by that offensive performance? You know what I mean? So I understand the metrics that they're going off of, and they were explaining it on the ESPN ticker when I was looking at it, and played the hardest strength of schedule so far as in terms of whatever they calculated and that, which I think it's fair. Like, you go on the road to Notre Dame, you had to play Penn State, who is a good football team in the grand scheme of things, and you're undefeated. So I can understand that. And when you have the Georgias, they played a really soft schedule, as we've noted. That makes sense as why they would put them overneath. I just didn't think the committee would have the balls to do it, to be completely honest. That's what I was probably most shocked at. But I think it's a little bit easier because they love Ohio State. They're like, oh, no, it's Ohio State. We'll put them up number 1. Like, it would have taken some real balls to put another team on there, I think.
Plus, it was the first one. So if this was at the end of the season and all these guys finish undefeated, I don't think that's the way the rankings would be unveiled. This is a let's get these 2 idiots on their podcast talking about it.
Yeah, let's generate some reactions here. So I think what stood out to me beyond the top 4, because we came on here, you had Washington at the 4 slot, I had Florida State. We said that could be interchangeable between Washington and Florida State. What's notable to me, Tyson, as we focus on the top 6, is that I think the committee's telling you that the Pac-12 has a small margin of error.
None.
Because if they're getting ranked 5, 6, they're priming it up for, if both these teams, Washington and Oregon, finish with a loss, they can definitely be jumped by a 1-loss SEC or a Texas team who's ranked at number 7.
Well, they're going to be jumped by a 2-loss SEC team if they lose. Like, that's the way this thing is setting up. If LSU beats Alabama this weekend, LSU's going to have the inside track to the college football playoff. And I think it's just as ridiculous as everybody else who's listening in their car right now and is like, that's not true. That's the way these things like kind of work. That's the way this thing was set up. And let's be clear here. The amount of times that the top 4 has stayed from the initial college football playoff ranking to the end of the season is 0. Like, it's not going to stay this way at the end of the season. But I think that's the committee telling the Pac-12, look, man, if Oregon has a loss, but it's to Washington, and if Washington keeps stumbling and keeps losing, that's going to look bad on Oregon. And that's kind of what they're saying. That's how I'm interpreting it. I think there's a real chance, man, that they might be the best conference in America and get snubbed out of this thing if the chips fall a certain way.
Yeah, and so the rest of it, so Texas sitting there with the 1 loss to Oklahoma, sandwiched between Oklahoma at 9 and Texas at 7 is Alabama at number 8. Now, they have the 1 loss to Texas. They've actually turned things around. They actually have started to play a lot more like Alabama football. Nick Saban's figured some things out since that Texas loss. Ole Miss at 10. Very, very interesting team to keep an eye on. Very interesting team. Penn State at 11. Missouri at 12. They're putting together a sneaky good season. Louisville at 13. Speaking of under the radar, I just can't believe that they're still going, but got to stop doubting them at this point, to be completely honest. And then LSU at 14, Notre Dame at 15. And so you mentioned LSU has an inside track because if they beat Alabama.
I mean, for the 2-loss teams, to be clear.
Yeah. Well, because if they beat Alabama, they could go to the SEC title game.
Right, and the committee just basically showed you they're not fans of Kansas with them coming into the 23 overall ranking. That's who Oklahoma's losses to. Texas loses to Oklahoma. That conference cannibalizes themselves one more time right before the Big Bang, and everybody separates. It's going to be so frustrating in the coming years when everybody's in one conference and these things like don't matter as much because.
Right.
Uh, I don't really know what metrics they use. I know what they say. I think that a lot of it is just like 10 people or whatever sitting around a round table and kind of spitballing off of each other and thinking, oh, if it was on a neutral, this team would beat this team. And it's really hard to tell at this point in the season because nobody's had to freaking play anybody. Yeah, there's like 5 teams you can point to with a solid, like a really solid resume, and everybody else is kind of just you're projecting that this team is better than that team. And to be honest, Brad, like it makes more sense to put LSU as the number 1 2-loss team to justify that Florida State's 4. And it makes more sense to put Washington and Oregon right next to each other because we don't really know if one of them's good enough to be in the playoff right now. So I it's all BS, man.
And it doesn't matter. And that's the reason why I primed it, because these are going to shake up because teams are going to lose. Teams are going to
What is
lose, and that's the way it goes.
what did I send you yesterday? I got to find this on my phone. It was the list of teams after the initial college football
Oh, yes.
playoff.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And while you're finding that, Tyson, I think you may have made some enemies in Kansas for our listeners, because Kansas State's number 23, Kansas is 21.
My bad.
Kansas, they're always getting the little brother treatment, even from a pro Kansas podcast like us.
Yes. Well, we're saying build a statue, man. Leopold need one. Here, I got it pulled up. Ole Miss ranked number 4 in 2014, loses the following week. 2015, LSU ranked second. They lose the following week. Both these LSU ones on here are to Bama, so that's up to you to decide if that was really an upset. But A&M ranked 4 in 2016. They lose. 2017, nothing. 2018, LSU loses to Bama again. 2019, Penn State loses. 2021, Michigan State gets housed. 2022, Tennessee and Clemson both lose, which means 2 seasons that this thing has been going on. Somebody that's made the top 4 to start the college football playoff has gone down. And we're looking at the slate this week, man, and I don't see one, but that doesn't mean that there's not one there.
Right, because Ohio State's playing Rutgers, Georgia's playing Missouri, Michigan's
At
playing
home.
Yeah, right. And Michigan's playing Purdue at home, and Florida State is playing Pittsburgh, who just got trounced by Notre Dame last week. So this could be one of the ones, like you said, there's a couple weeks in there that nobody lost, but maybe this is just what happens. Like, it's November college football, things get crazy.
It gets, yeah, man. It's going to get really fun, and we're going to get a lot of heated debates on other podcasts because this isn't really one where we do that.
Yeah, so let's move into the Week 10 preview. We've been talking about it. We've been teasing it. This is a huge, huge weekend. We got a lot of games we want to get into, but besides that, we already mentioned Ohio State, who they're playing. Notre Dame plays Clemson. That was supposed to be a big game, but Clemson's sitting at 4-4. But if Clemson can go back in the Wayback Machine, Notre Dame, they got no shot, and they could be looking at on the outside, looking in for a New Year's Six bowl even, which is pretty eye opening. Other than that, we got to shout out Air Force because they're ranked 25. It's the first time they've been ranked in the college football playoff era. So shout out Air Force. They're 8-0. That's awesome. But other than that, I mean, Louisville plays Virginia Tech. You don't expect much there. Your boys at Tulane, which I know you're going to rant on, they're at number 24. They play East Carolina. So the games that we're going to preview, those are really the big games, and it's the ones you're going to have to get your popcorn for. So let's start with Kansas State, the number 23 ranked team in the country, going to number 7, Texas. Texas still without Quinn Ewers. Kansas State playing much better. What do you expect to see in this one?
It kind of feels like every decently sized or big moment that Texas has been in, besides that Alabama game for the last couple of years, they've been without Quinn Ewers, right? Like that's just how this thing is kind of shaken out, which is a bummer. I expect Texas to kind of play Texas football. That's loose. I think Sark is like he's building the pipeline of NFL running backs. Like the pipeline is back at Texas. The way he's scheming up this stuff for these guys is awesome. Kansas State is a surprise to be here to me, and they've been awesome. It's not to like say, they're not as good as their ranking is. It's just I personally didn't project them to be in the top 25 in the initial college football playoff poll. So that's all well and good, Brad. But at a certain point, like the cream needs to rise to the top, and there needs to be some solid separation. It's going to be really hard to go on the road here for Kansas State and get a win, backup quarterback or not.
Yeah, Malik Murphy, he had some good moments against BYU. I think against a defense like that, you wanted to see more. So that's why I'd be nervous if I'm Texas here, because Kansas State, while they're sitting at 6-2, they've lost to number 12 Missouri, and they lost to Oklahoma State on the road, who is starting to play really good football. And that was the turning point for their season. And that's honestly starting to not look like that bad of a loss. And so I think when you kind of look at things here, and Oklahoma State's ranked number 22, like Kansas State, the only two losses have been to top 25 teams in the initial rankings. So this is a scary game for Texas. And without Quinn Ewers, like Texas could be on major upset alert, and this could end their college football playoff dreams.
Preseason, if you said that Kansas State was going to lose to Missouri and Oklahoma State, where do you think you would have had them in the first college football playoff ranking?
Top 15. They'd be undefeated.
No, I mean, I'm saying if somebody told you before the season they were going to lose to those two programs.
Oh, if they were going to lose. Oh, yeah.
There's no shot.
Not top 25. No.
It's crazy the way this year's kind of played out.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I think Texas is, I mean, upset alert. Keep an eye out for Texas. This could be a weird one, and it's at noon as well. So it's not like you're gonna have a lot of tailgating going on before then to get the juices flowing. Missouri at Georgia. So Georgia's coming off a game at Jacksonville, the largest outdoor cocktail party, where they faced Florida, and they had a tiny little scare early, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're Georgia," and they turned it on and blew Florida out. But Missouri is quietly putting together a really good season. Brady Cook's been awesome. I think, honestly, and we'll get into this in money-making time, this is going to be closer than people expect. But without Brock Bowers, Tyson, Carson Beck looked awesome spreading the ball out. And when you got Georgia athletes on the field, you're going to have the better roster than the majority of teams you play.
I wish so badly that this game was flipped. Like, I wish this was at Missouri, so I could really talk myself into trying to get some of our units back. Because let's be real, we're getting our butts kicked betting college football this year. We haven't had a very good run. But that's the only if this was a neutral or if this was in Missouri, I'm all about Missouri winning this football game. The fact that it's in Georgia looked like that for the last 45 minutes of their last football game. That was kind of like I had to look up at the screen and almost remind myself, like, oh yeah, they've won the last couple national championships. Like that, it's these guys.
Yeah, it's going to be what I'm interested now. Missouri 7-1. What I'm interested to see is how they match up physically, because Eli Drinkwitz coming from Appalachian State, it was a slow burn for him to get things going, but he's always been a good recruiter, and it feels like they finally started to recruit at an SEC level. This is the test for him. Do they match up athletically? And not like they're going to be pushing around Georgia in the trenches, because I think that would be a hard ask. But can they keep up the speed? Do they look competent enough when they're trying to execute their offense, or does it just completely get blown up?
That is the most fun part about this Missouri team, is they finally look like they can go sideline to sideline with just about everybody else.
Oklahoma and at Oklahoma State, a game known as Bedlam, has not gone well for Oklahoma State over the years. Like, they call this a rivalry. It's one of the longest standing rivalries, but Oklahoma has kicked their ass for a long time. But Tyson, we mentioned it. Oklahoma State is sitting at 6-2. They are 4-1 in the Big 12. Like unthinkably sitting at 6-2 for how bad they were expected to be and how bad they were to start the season. They have a chance to play spoiler against Big Brother here.
Well, I'm going to give something out here. Ollie Gordon, the second, he's sitting at plus 5,500 right now in Heisman odds in a year where nobody's really separated themselves. And it's a hard ask to say like a running back's going to win, especially when we don't kind of anoint them before the season. Brad, his last 5 games, he went for 121, 136, 168, 282, and 271 alongside 8 touchdowns in that stretch. If he shows up and balls out, that number is going from plus 5,500 to probably plus 850 because Marvin Harrison Jr. is not going to win the award. Like, let's just stop pretending with some of these guys. Like, Marvin's not going to win the award. I don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to win the award. Jordan Travis isn't going to win the award. Carson Beck's not going to win the award. It's a slim picking. And I know that's not exactly talking about the game, but if Ollie Gordon shows up and balls out again, and Oklahoma State is able to beat an Oklahoma team who, before last weekend, people like me, like you, were saying, man, we were wrong about this Oklahoma team. I really like them. And then some of the cracks showed for the first time all season, where it was like, oh, they're going to struggle with this kind of team. We should have seen that coming. Oklahoma State doesn't present the same challenges that Kansas does. I don't know what's going on in Stillwater, but those boys are, from the beginning of the season to now, I don't think there's more improvement across a single program.
It's been a really impressive coaching job by Mike Gundy, who I think a lot of people view as a fossil, view as, oh, he's kind of not with the times. He had people mass exiting his program, and he's coached them into a 6-2 team, 4-1 in this conference. It's been a really good performance.
It doesn't feel real though, does it?
No, it doesn't. Which is the weirdest thing. Like you're just waiting for it to drop, and they just keep beating teams. So I'm just like, I don't know what's real anymore. And it's been, like we've said a couple of times here, that type of college football season. Like you think you know, and you really don't. So I'll get into this a little bit more in money making time. I do have a play in this. Let's move into Washington at USC because USC survived on the road at Cal, and Washington, something's going on with that offense because Michael Penix is missing throws. It just something feels off here, but this is a big matchup for obvious reasons for both these schools. Like USC, they have to win this game. This would be a statement victory for them at home. And Washington, you got to stay undefeated. The committee's telling you can't lose, or else you're not gonna make the college football playoff.
First of all, kind of unreal. USC gets the respect to be ranked inside the top 20 right now. That's insane. But I think you can trace a lot of the Washington woes back, like when Michael Penix got hit in the chest against Oregon and started grabbing, like the offense, and he played well and finished out that game. He's at home, the adrenaline's through the roof. It's the biggest game he's played in his career. Able to kind of scrap that together. But since then, man, it's not been very good for this offense that we were talking about as like the best in college football, and really like we were trying to find a close second. That's where we were at through the first 5-6 weeks of the year. Man, if they lose to USC, all hell will break loose because then Washington is fake, and then Oregon is fake because they lost to Washington. And maybe we were wrong about USC, and they only get up for the big ones, and we're going to move them back up to about 13 here in the poll, and they're going to be fighting for a New Year's Six spot. Man, this is massive implication. People, the over under 75.5. I should tell you everything you need to know about if you should watch this football game.
Yeah, and I'll put this out here too. So USC, they're 5-1 in the Pac-12. They have 2 losses, but they lost to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
If they win, Oregon, Washington, USC will all have 1 loss, and we could be looking at USC in the Pac-12 championship game if everything goes correctly to their plan. How about that?
We'd have to eat some humble pie or something.
But we also picked them to win. We also picked them to win.
Like, you could buy the humble pie with the money that we're going to make from their tickets. But we know Lincoln Riley. No, we won't. I was going to say an apology, but no.
Well, yeah. No, well, we said his offense is good, and that's really what's carrying him. The only thing we're critical about is his unwillingness to fire his horrible defensive coordinator and how much we criticize Alex Grinch. So I think we're right. We're spot on still.
If DeBoer pulls this off, like there needs to be some sort of petition as far as like, speaking of apologies, there was a lot of people when this dude got the job that were like, I don't get this. Like he's not going to translate, blah, blah, blah. He's just won a freaking ton of games since he's been coaching Washington.
Here we go. LSU at Alabama. I'm going to give you the runway here. Tyson's the LSU guy. This is, for obvious reasons, a massive game on both sides. So LSU, they're sitting at 6-2. 4-1 in the SEC. They've really grown as the season has gone along. Like really, I think you can see the progression. Now there's still weaknesses, there's still holes. The defense still looks shaky. And as for Alabama, I mean, people were leaving them for dead to start the year, and now they're sitting at 7-1, 5-0 in the SEC, just lurking, just continuing to get better, grinding it out like Nick Saban always does with his football teams. And this, oh yeah, by the way, this is a rematch spot. Do you remember the game last year?
No, could you remind me?
I know you do.
Yeah, that was absolutely incredible. But man, this LSU defense is really susceptible to just everything that Alabama's good at. And that's really scary because Alabama's going to run the ball. That's like without debate. They're going to do pretty much whatever they want on the ground. If they can throw the ball just enough to kind of keep the sticks moving when they find themselves in 3rd and 8 spots, if they even get there in this game, Alabama might walk away with this thing. But on the flip side, Brad, like if we're gonna play like the modern college football game, this LSU offense can score on literally anybody in the country. They can score on, pretty much any college defense we've ever seen. This offense is insane. They're on a better pace right now than the 2019 LSU team, which was the best offense, like statistically as far as efficiency and everything goes, that we've seen in our lifetime. Why is it that this game every year feels like, maybe it's because I'm an LSU guy, but feels like the biggest game of the season every time November 1st, November 2nd, November 5th gets here? I don't know if LSU is good enough to win this game, But I know that if Alabama wins this game, they're going to be hunting for the college football playoff.
I think that's well said. This is a litmus test for Alabama because if they can put on a performance here, it's just what else do you question? Okay, they lost to Texas. Let's say Texas wins this weekend again. That's your loss. Okay, it looks pretty good, and so I completely agree. And on the flip side too, for your guys in the Bayou, if they win this game, LSU's back. Like that's what everybody's saying. Like, oh, LSU, we're doing what they did last year. They're just growing into the season. They had guys leave. They need to get the scholarship guys up and running. And if they do that, I don't think you can really argue against that because that's what Brian Kelly's done.
It's going to piss some people off because they're going to jump. They're going to jump some undefeateds. They're going to jump some one-loss teams. And for all you draft nerds out there, Malik Neighbors versus Kool-Aid McKinstry this weekend is the biggest draft matchup we've probably had this season. Because if Malik Neighbors goes out and gets 165 yards and 2 touchdowns, he will have solidified himself as the number 2 in the class behind Marvin Harrison Jr. Because right now it's him, it's Rome, you can throw 5-6 names for who you want to be that number 2 wideout. And then Kool-Aid McKinstry has kind of slowly been falling down boards as the season's been going along. This is a huge bounce back spot. So there's 2, 20-year-old kids battling for $10 million this weekend.
Tyson, I wish we could keep previewing games because, man, it's been a tough season. It's been a tough season.
I hate
but
this.
What do we always say, man? We don't hide. We don't come on here and say, oh, we hit one play when we missed a few. So let's get into it like we always do. Money making time. Here's the recap from last week. It has not been. Hopefully it's been money making time if you faded us because that's what we really do.
You're up 45 units right now.
Holy smokes. So I went 4-7. So I got the play of the week home with Ole Miss. That was comfortable against Vandy. Oregon, that was a rocking chair play, which was nice. Texas, I thought I was gonna get screwed there, but they came through for me. And then Wisconsin by the hook, scary play. I was sweating the entire time. And on the bad end, so Penn State just no-showed, was completely horrendous. Maryland loses outright against Northwestern as a 13.5-point favorites. They've now lost 3 games in a row. We're starting to sweat out our freaking future play when they started 5-0, like just absurd. Duke never got into the red zone, so that was a bad play. I knew that was burnt when I saw the line movement. UTSA. Now this was the first thing on Scott Van Pelt's bad beats because they were up 20. They're up. What were they up? They're up 17, or what were they even up? Whatever they were about to go up 2 scores, and they're on the 1-yard line, got a 15-yard penalty, or down on inside the 5, got 2 15-yard penalties, had to kick a field goal, missed, and gave up a backdoor touchdown. So that's how my season's gone. App State, I said that Southern Miss is going to quit. Well, App State's doing the same thing. I can't believe they came back and made it a game, but they just did that to tease me. And then Washington minus 26.5, brutal play, bad read. And UCLA, not a good read at my end as well at 17.5. So 4-7, down 3.44 units once again.
Yeah, and I went 2-4 this week. Brad, at the beginning of the year, I was kind of treading water. I was staying like 1 or 2 units above for the first 4 weeks. I don't think I've made money on a college football Saturday here in a month and a half, which, the NFL has been good to us, so that's something. But this has not been fun. I had Oregon minus 6.5 as well. Simple, easy. Colorado plus 17.5. That one played out like that was the first time in that month and a half that I haven't won where I was like, oh man, like I read this one correctly because Washington wasn't even close at 26.5. Tulane was up 1,000,000 points and then just got bled to death. That 10.5 does not hit. Oklahoma minus 10. I was feeling okay. And then I was not very quickly. And then my play of the week, Oregon State, minus 3.5. And I shouldn't have even looked at this game, dude. I don't know why I can't quit Oregon State, but I had to talk myself out of taking them again.
So Tyson, like you mentioned it, down 2.26 units. So we were down 5.7 on the week here. Close your ears or just be like, I see like money signs now because,
right.
You just like this, boing, 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 because you keep hearing us throwing these plays out. I am down an atrocious 20.44 units. Tyson's down 7 now because we've been taking it on the chin. So the podcast is a total down 27.47 units. So not good for us here. But if you're fading us and you're like, keep giving us plays because all we do is take the opposite, you are printing cash.
So you're welcome.
You're welcome. Right. Either way, you're welcome here. But Tyson, you know my motto. this season. I'm using this as an analysis, checking out my process going forward. So we're just going to keep throwing stuff out here. Now, I'm not just throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks. Like, I'm actually doing the work and it's just not coming in for me,
It
which
would
is the
work
most
better if we
frustrating
just
part.
didn't think about it at all. Like if we just went straight gut plays, I think we're not down 27 units. I know that.
It may be paralyzation by analyzing or however the term goes. I'm not sure, but
I think you nailed it.
it's been frustrating. That is for sure. So Tyson, let's get into it. Let's give out our plays for this week. How many do you have?
I again only have 5, so
Okay.
I don't know how we're gonna break this one up because Brad's analysis that he's doing is costing him real dollars.
Oh
These are
yeah.
these are not sit on the sideline and jot it down in a notebook plays. These are I got to
No.
get to the book.
Like we're doing stuff for content. We have fun with it, but we're actually betting this. So like I'm
Yes,
down like real money. So it's not like
yes,
we're not like we're laughing out of pain. We're not like,
yeah,
we're
100%.
costing you money. Like we're in some pain here. So all right, I have 12 plays. I'm going to see if we can get it going. Like it's the same process that I've always done. Gonna, like I said, look at it after the season. But let's start here. I'm going to go South Carolina minus 15.5 against Jacksonville State. Now, Jacksonville State's had a nice season, but it's at a lower level type of college football. Every single time these teams step up, play the big boys, play real athletes, they get pounded. This to me is a game that South Carolina is finally going to give Spencer Rattler time to throw. And I really think that this is where they are like, let's get right here. Let's have a game. Let's have some fun. And they blow out Jacksonville State. So give me the Gamecocks minus 15.5. My other play, my second one, I'm going to take Florida Atlantic and UAB over 60.5. Florida Atlantic's offense is explosive. UAB's offense is also explosive. And against the right defenses, they can score points. And against anybody, they're going to score against anybody. UAB is going to allow points. So I think this is going to be a fireworks show, especially considering that UAB is coming off a bye. So I think we're going to see a lot of points in this one. Give me over 60.5.
So I said I have five this week. I have a 6-1 that is not going to pay you, or it might not pay you ever, but it's not going to pay you till the end of the season. I'll start with that one, Brad. This is just something I see when I'm going through the book and just kind of messing around here on FanDuel. James Madison to go undefeated is plus 125 right now. James Madison's schedule to close out is at Georgia State. This is the toughest game left. At home against Connecticut, at home against App State, and then on the road at Coastal Carolina. They're going to be favored in all those games. And at plus 125, because if you run through this, like Liberty's minus 290, Florida State's minus 220, Georgia's minus 160, you kind of have to do some digging to get to some of these teams that like could do it for good value here. So I'm going to start with James Madison. And hopefully at the end of the year, this will bump us up to only down 25.5 units.
Yeah, that would be this. You're saving us here, man. You are saving us. All right. Since I got more plays, I'll keep it going here. I'm taking the bait, and I don't necessarily know if it's bait or if it's just a gross one. You got to hold your nose sometimes, Tyson. But I'm going to take Missouri plus 15.5 on the road at Georgia. I'm not necessarily excited about jumping in front of this Georgia train. It seems like they've turned it on and flipped the switch, and like right now they got it rolling. So that does scare me. But in this spot, coming back from Jacksonville after a big win over Florida, I think that Missouri can keep this within 2 scores. This, to me, they're gonna be able to move the ball on Georgia's defense because Graham Mertz did it, and Brady Cook's better than Graham Mertz. Missouri has an elite wide receiver, so I think they're going to be able to match what happens down in Georgia, even though it's a tough place to play, and stay within 2 scores here. So give me Missouri plus 15.5. And we kind of mentioned this off the top as well, and it could be weird. We didn't see how Pittsburgh was going to beat Florida State, but Tyson, this was what I'm thinking. Notre Dame scored a ton of points on Pittsburgh last week. I'm going to take Florida State Pittsburgh over 50.5. And the reason why I'm doing that, if things get funky and like all of a sudden Pittsburgh starts scoring points, like I don't want to be on the hook for the big number, like at all. So I'm just going to take the over. Pittsburgh's allowed a ton of points to teams. Florida State, yes, they have a good defense on paper, but they can get scored on. So if Florida State's going to come in and score 40 points or so, I think Pittsburgh can maybe score 2 touchdowns themselves. So I'm going to take the over 50.5.
I think Florida State could hit that 50-50 by themselves. Brad, here's one that I just want to see the ball goes through the hoop, man. I'm taking Ole Miss -3 at home against Texas A&M. I know two things for sure. One, Lane Kiffin hates Jimbo Fisher. Two, Lane Kiffin always plays well against the coaches that for some reason he just despises. Like this is going to be a look, man. I make fun of Ole Miss more than anybody I think in the entire country because they're going to be number 10, and then they're going to get the doors blown off them later in the season, and everything's going to come crashing down. And we're going to remember that Ole Miss is always kind of a bit of a fraud. That's not this week. Jimbo Fisher wants to make a bowl game. Jimbo Fisher's making $100 million. Like that's insane. They're on the phone right now with Michigan State saying like, so what do we have to do to like be able to fire this guy without paying him? Like, how did that work for you guys? Because this is not going to be good. I think Ole Miss is going to score a freaking ton of points, and I just don't think A&M can kind of keep up.
That's interesting. I was a little bit scared about that play. I'm not going to lie.
That's because you love A&M.
No, I don't. I just loved a couple things about him, and then they absolutely pissed me off in that Alabama game. I thought for sure I was going to get one and be smart, and that's just the way my season's gone. So I'm going to take Oklahoma -5.5 on the road at Oklahoma State. So I said I had a couple nuggets from that game. Is anybody familiar with this series? Because Oklahoma leads the all-time series 91-19-7.
That's so crazy.
Mike Gundy in this series is 3-15 against Oklahoma.
I'm trying to think of the 3 he got.
15.
The Whedon
3
year.
he got.
Did he get the Whedon year?
So this is what I'm seeing. 2011.
Yeah, so that'd be that.
They blew out Oklahoma 44-10. 2014, they won in overtime in Norman. And then in 2021, they won 37-13 in Stillwater, or 37-33 in Stillwater. So 2 of those wins have come at home, which makes me a little bit nervous. But I think we're going to see a focused Oklahoma unit. You said it in the preview. What Oklahoma struggles with, I don't think Oklahoma State can do to that defense. So I'm going to go with history. I'm going to go with pedigree. I'm going to take the Sooners -5.5 on the road. New Mexico State, my next one, -3. Diego Pavia is an absolute stud, man.
He's good.
Absolute stud. And they are starting to hit explosive plays. That's what Middle Tennessee has been giving up. And if you're going to give this New Mexico State offense, our boy Jerry Kill and Diego Pavia the opportunity to hit explosives, they're going to do it. So give me at home, New Mexico State -3. I love this play.
I'm going to give you your flowers on my next one here. I don't think anybody's watching Nebraska. Like, why is Nebraska -3 playing against Michigan State? Nebraska is rolling, dude. They might win that side of the Big Ten. Like, they might be representing. It's the East, right? They might be representing the Big Ten East or the West. Sorry, in the championship, in the conference championship. Like, this is insane because the way they started the year, we kind of all buried them after they lost to Colorado. Like, it was just kind of like, well, that's that. If they can't beat these FCS dudes, like, they have no shot at winning the Big Ten or even competing. They're going to make a bowl game. Michigan State's not good enough, and I just think like Nebraska is freaking rolling, and it's just for the first time in a long time, it's gone under the radar.
Yeah, man, this is not looking good for our future. That is for sure. Like,
we're cooked.
It's been, dude. This year's been so tough for us, but we'll see. We'll tally it up at the end. I'm taking Liberty -16.5. Jamie Chadwell is one of the best coaches in the country. I'm just convinced of it. Like, wherever he goes, they win. Wherever he goes, they win. And he has an electric quarterback this season. It gives you something that Grayson McCall really hasn't. And I think that's explosive passing. And he's not the best. He's not the most accurate. Like, I think McCall has more accuracy. I'm forgetting his name now. Saunders, I believe. Salter, Caden Salter. That's what it is. So Davey O'Brien, class of 2023. So he's had a good season. I think it's been quiet. And Louisiana Tech, for as much hype and excitement as they had preseason, it hasn't necessarily translated to the field. So I think Liberty is going to want to make a statement here. Put on a clinic under the hook or the key number of 17. I'm going to take Liberty -16.5. And Tyson, this one, it's just, I'm not thinking about it. This is one of the ones we talked about. I'm taking Washington USC over 75.5. it's probably not going to hit. Let's be honest. Like, that is a ton of points.
So many
That's
points.
so many points. But when looking at the explosive plays that these defenses give up, looking at the explosive ability of these two offenses, you just have to go with it. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, the numbers don't this and that. I don't know. Like, when I watch these defenses and when I watch these offenses, I think we can see fireworks. So I'm taking Washington USC over the insane number of 75.5.
Well, I'm going to get my butt kicked again by the Washington Huskies because I'm going Washington -3 here. And I just think they're at least a field goal better than this USC team. I know they've looked like trash the last couple weeks relative to what we were expecting, but that team is still in there. Like there's a reason they're ranked number 5 in the country, and what they've shown for the majority of the season has been a top 5 college football team. What they've shown over the last couple weeks probably barely deserves to be ranked, if we're being honest. But that's the same thing for USC. And I think that there comes a certain time in these USC games where it just gets less fun for them to keep on playing. Like, it just gets less fun for that defense to get dunked on for 60 minutes in a row. And I like Washington. Look, man, we said they were going to find their offense 2 weeks ago, and then we said they were going to find it last week against Stanford. Neither one of those things happened. If they don't bounce back against USC, get out the shovel, man, because that's the season.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I guess I was a little more critical of their offense. Maybe I should have. Like, it just feels like the timing's off. But they put up points against Stanford. It was the
Right.
defense all of a sudden too that's been not. I mean, Troy Taylor's a good coach.
He is. And Washington's been getting up for the big ones now for 2 years, and this is a big one.
True, very true. I'm going to take Kentucky -3.5 on the road at Mississippi State. Not a number I love, but the line's telling me that's going to go to 4. If it comes back down, I'm going to be very upset with myself. But I'm going to lay 3.5 here. Kentucky, like Devin Leary, to me, he started to look a little bit better, just based on my eye test. Like, I'm not sure what the advanced stats or anything like that said, but Kentucky's a way better football team right now than Mississippi State. Like, Mississippi State, they might have to clean house after this season. Try to keep everything together after the unfortunate timing of Mike Leach's death. But like, if they want to go forward as a program in the SEC with Oklahoma and Texas coming in, they're going to have to really do some soul searching and figure out what they want to do as a program moving forward. And I think Kentucky, Mark Stoops hates getting disrespected, hates it. I think this is a statement win for him, get their name back out there. And another one, Tyson, I'm not thinking about it. LSU, Bama over 60.5. Alabama can put up points on offense now. LSU could, like you said, can score on anybody. Give me the over here, 60.5. I'm not even going to get into it. That's what I think. I think that's going to happen. We're going to see some excitement in this one.
That means it's a guarantee, because when we don't kind of pontificate about, about why we think these bets are going to hit, they have a better chance. Brad, I'm taking Oregon -24.5. It's -102 right now. It's suggesting it's going to get a little lower. I think that there's not a team in the country that Oregon is going to have a letdown spot against this season. That's who I think this team is. That's who I think Dan Lanning is. They're fighting for their lives, dude. And honestly, if you had to walk into a dark alley with any NFL or NCAA football coach in your corner, I think I might want Dan Lanning. Like, these guys are going to be ready to roll. Cal's had some moments this year. They've also had some moments of getting donkeyed by better teams, and I think that Oregon is going to physically assault the California Golden Bears. Is that what they are?
Golden Bears, yeah. How is Cal be able to pick themselves up the mat? That was a tough loss against USC. Like, they went all out for that. We're right in it, and now it's like, I don't know.
Well, I thought the same thing about Arizona and Arizona State, and I was wrong about those. So
that's fair. That is fair. Okay, Tyson. Last play before the play of the week. I'm taking Fresno State money line against Boise State. Mikey Keene's back. I think Boise State might be without their running back, who's literally their best player on offense, is the most important player on that team. If he's in and he's banged up, I still like Fresno State money line. I think they're the better team. I really do. Their defense is good. So you're telling me that the best weapon on the other side is banged up? I'm going to take the team that's been starting to score more points, think is more explosive, and they want to make a statement here. This is a rivalry game, conference, Mountain West football. Give me Fresno State money line -144. And then for my play of the week, I'm taking Tennessee team total over 44.5 at home against UConn. This, to me, just feels like a game that they want to run up the score. This is when all the bells and whistles come out. This is when Joe Milton reminds everybody, oh, my arm is huge and maybe you can believe in me again. The athletes are going to blow Connecticut out. The only concern I have is that they're sleepwalking a little bit against UConn, but I just think the talent disparity is so great that they could score 50 points in their sleep. So give me play of the week, Tennessee team total over 44.5.
I got a play of the week here, Brad, and it's a little bit of a two-parter because I'm sick of having to come on here, and we are just down a ridiculous amount every week. So I'm taking a huge shot here. The play of the week itself is LSU and Alabama over 60.5. Like they're going to score a million points. I'm not super concerned about that number at all. The shot play here, and you don't have access to it because of the mob or whatever the reasoning is. For the game specials tab here on FanDuel. Each team to score 1 plus passing touchdown and 1 plus rushing touchdown, and each half is plus 2,400. We need them back, man. We need them back.
Say that again.
It is each team to score 1 plus passing touchdown and 1 plus rushing touchdown in each half. It's plus 2,400.
Wow. That is, if it's a fireworks show, that we could see that for sure.
Well, either we're going to lose the over 60.5 and I'm not going to play this and like be upset, or we're going to lose the over 60.5 and I'm going to play this and just lose another unit. Who cares? At this point in the year, we're down so much that it's like, man, I'm better off. I go to a grocery store and just buy a million scratchers because that's what this college football season's been for us.
Oh, it's been tough. It's been frustrating, but it's been fun to watch. I think for the most part, except for when we're getting our asses handed to us. But that's going to do it for money making time this college football week and week 10. A lot of good games. Can't wait to watch this slate. Honestly, like this is one of the ones when you're getting your ass kicked and the slate sucks. It's like, why do I even like college football? This is the one though where you're starting to put together bowl matchups, starting to think about who can actually compete for a national championship.
And we got a little Breeders' Cup action on Saturday as well. So it's a full day here. We're going to have multiple screens up everywhere we go.
Yeah, definitely. Tyson, if you're playing the horses, where can they find that?
They will be in the Chalkboard app that's in the App Store, Google Play, wherever you download your apps. The group name is ISWIS, presents the Roundtable Bets. It's just Brad and myself, a handful of other people throwing picks in there, whether it's NCAA football, whether it's an NFL first touchdown score parlay, like a little three-legger that you want to throw into the chat there. Go ahead and do it. We'll let you write in. It's free. You can basically – it's an infinite money glitch. If you just go in there and do the opposite of what our college football picks have been, you are living large right now.
Yeah, it's been tough. It has been tough, that's for sure. But like, subscribe, and share the show. In the meantime, if you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. If it's a pity like, we understand. It's we like to clap on the back. It's like, oh yeah, it's been tough, but hopefully you guys are smart enough to fade us, because that's what we would do. Honestly,
it all changes now.
It all changes now. Everybody's going to start fading us, and we're going to get hot. If you're listening in podcast form, go ahead and rate and review if you haven't already. It really helps us become more discoverable in the algorithm, or whatever the heck we're calling it nowadays. And we really do appreciate it, and appreciate all your support from the bottom of our hearts. Let us know in the comments too. What did you think of the college football playoff rankings? Who would you have? Who's your top 4? If you want to leave that in the comment section of the podcast form as well, go ahead and do that. We'll definitely get to that, answer any questions you may have. And in the meantime, stay connected with us on our socials, X, Instagram, TikTok, at ISWIS_pod. Tyson and I will be back later this week, getting ready for the NFL slate. It's been much better over there. Much better over on the NFL side of things, which is backwards from what it normally is
like
for us.
35 units better.
Oh, my God. So keep an eye out for that one. We'll get you ready for the NFL slate as well. We will talk to you all then. Peace.